Well, everyone, it's back to business as usual. My name is Phil, and you're listening to The Lip. Yeah, I spent the better part of 2 months going over a very large story. Of course, that was the story of my 2002 and 2003, because, like I said all that other time, I literally gave people little pieces of that story depending upon when the situation came up. But I never actually put all the pieces together and told the story as a whole. And I figured that it's time. I'm not going to be beating around the bush as far as that goes. I have never really told that whole story, and it turns out that in the process of telling it, it ended up bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because there was really a lot that was going on with it. Now, again, like I said, there's probably some pieces to that story that I didn't put all the way out there. I'm thinking about putting the rest of it in another medium. And then, even beyond that, sorry to say, there's probably a few pieces to that story that will go with me to the grave. I'm just not going to tell them. Everybody has stuff like that, even though how ever involved they become in something that they did. You just have some pieces of it that you just want to keep to yourself. I certainly have a few pieces to that 2002 2003 story of me being 24 and 25, just experiencing what ended up being my life at that point, that I'd rather just keep to myself. But as far as it goes, I mean, anybody who's seen The Lip in the last nearly year now will know that I've been doing these shows and I've been putting a piece of my artwork or some other things out there to become the background. Now, I'm saying that because I did a recording earlier that hasn't come out yet that doesn't have a piece of artwork that I used. So I'm not going to try to, well, I guess I can tell you what it is because by now you would have already listened to that episode. It's the cup, the Lip cup, the official cup of the Lip. But this is the first time that I've actually done what I said was not necessarily what I wanted to do, which is actually record the show with me just talking and no background art. It's different. And of course, that's going to really be the question for the fill in the blanks. Why exactly did I choose this show today as I record? It's June 12th, 2025. You're not going to hear this episode until June 28th, 2025. So it's a little early, like I've been doing them, but there's a definite specific reason why I've chosen not to use a piece of my art as the background for the show. But speaking of which, what is this show? I said that I'm going back to business as usual, which means the story of 2022, rather 2002, 2003 is complete, and now I'm moving back towards what is my normal medium, which is all types of random stuff. And very few shows that I do have more random stuff than when I do a just talking episode. Now, these are some of my favorite ones because for those of you who've never listened to a just talking episode, the origin started way back towards the beginning of the show earlier in the first year. Now, not like I've been doing this forever. This is only the fourth year, but that's still quite a bit. I mean, this is 4 years worth of shows every week, always been new. I feel that I haven't done any repeats. Occasionally, I may re-say a story here and there, just because, well, sometimes you just can't remember everything that you go through. But the Just Talking idea is me thinking of things that I've seen that I just want to talk about. Just talk, throw it out there. Originally, it was in my office, and I just sat there and just said, you know what? What if I talk about this? But now, of course, throughout time, I've decided that, well, sometimes I see something that I want to talk about, but I'm not doing a Just Talking show for like a month and a half. So the best thing I can do is I can write it down. That way I have the thought still there. And ultimately, I began to do the Just Talking episodes like that. I've been writing it down so I can remember what it is I wanted to talk about. Turns out that over the last, like I said, about 2 months when I've been doing this 2002-2003 show, I had a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. The way I figure it, a good 2 episodes worth. This one is going to be Just Talking 18, and I still have meat on the bone after this for sure. So, a few weeks, maybe a month and a half or so, I'll go back to it and I'll have Just Talking 19 with some of the other stuff that was in my mind that I wanted to talk about. So ultimately, I wasn't just resting on my laurels, as they say. I actually was doing other work besides doing the 2002-2003 story, because all that pretty much was in my head. So I just had to pull it out and just go through it. Now, with the Just Talking episodes, and I wrote another Fact or Fiction, and I have 2 more whole story episodes to go along. I pretty much took care of the entire summer worth of episodes while I was producing the shows for 2002 and 2003. So I was able to use that time knowing that the notes for that were all in my mind. I just actually physically made notes for other stuff. And that's what I did. So I've got a lot of content that I've worked on, and it's now time to begin to pour it out. On that note, it's time to fill in the blanks. Now, I did just say that, as you can clearly see, it's me. No painting. And this is the background for this episode. First time I've ever actually done this. Why? Why is there no painting? Why is it just me talking? Well, the answer is I'm in Pittsburgh. I'm not in Philly. I had some business to take care of, so I'm going to be in Pittsburgh a couple days. And as a result, the show must go on. So I made sure to bring my stuff, bring my notes, and I'm going to just go ahead and do a show or 2. Possibly 2. Yeah, today's the 12th. Tomorrow's the 13th. Friday the 13th. Probably going to do one then too. Pretty good chances of that happening. But ultimately, the question was, why did I not use the cover art? The answer with the blank is, well, I'm in Pittsburgh, nowhere near home in Philly, where I have all my art. So I can't use my art if I don't have it, right? Right. Yeah, I could have used a background from something I took a picture of out there, but nah, actually go face to face with everybody this time. And that's how the fill in the blank goes today. It is time for the main event. Bell is rung, and it is time for me to, well, just talk. That's primarily what I'm best at. Blackberry Dr. Pepper. Okay. Let's get to it. I've got a lot of things that I have potential to talk about. Now let's just see where we're going to go with this. Let's see. I think I'll go with this one, because it's actually something interesting. Well, I think all of these are interesting, at least to me anyway. Hopefully you find them interesting too. The first thing I want to talk about is, well, if you had an opportunity to be given 4 of something for 1, you would take it, right? Yeah. You give me 4 of something, and I give you 1. That sounds like a great deal. Now, if you have to give 4 of something to get 1, that's not such a great deal. You would rather not do that, right? Most people would rather not do that. Give up 4 of something for 1. It's not the best way to do business. And the federal government of the United States has decided that they're done giving away 4 for 1. As of the minting of 2026, there will be no more pennies. We're done with pennies. And it's really that simple. 4 for 1. In order to make 1 penny, it costs 4 cents. That doesn't make any sense. 1 penny, which is worth 1 cent, costs 4 cents to make. That's outrageous. Talk about built-in inflation. For every 1 penny, you spend 4 to make it. No good. No good. Coolest part about it is they didn't assign anybody to say the one most horrible job you could possibly have, which would be like, well, we're taking pennies out of circulation as well. So not only are we going to stop minting them, we're going to stop using them, and we're going to collect them all, and we're going to send some people out there to go get every penny, gather them up, put them in several big trucks, melt them down, and use all that metal for other things. That would be Ethan Hunt level stuff. Mission impossible. But we're not going to go and do that. Going to continue to use the pennies, and they're going to be circulated just as if they always were. However, there's going to be a point in time when we're not going to have any more pennies. We're talking years in advance, I imagine. You're going to be going to a place, and you're going to dig out some change in your pocket, which is becoming more and more uncommon at this stage in the game. And you're going to realize that, oh, I need 2 cents so I can make $1, and I'll get $1 back in my change. One day in the future, because these coins are going to be gathered up, and somebody who thinks like me, a collector of cards and such knows that the less of something there is, the more valuable it becomes. Right now, there's probably so many pennies that it's ridiculous. There's a few that have a lot of value to them. Certain years, errors, but the general pennies are worthless, right? Well, right now they are. But knowing that they will not be making any more pennies after they're minted in 2026, the last minting of them, a penny would be something that, let's say, somebody might want to grab and make disappear. Because if they're gone, now their value begins to rise on the few that are left. And at the same time, we got rid of pennies. What's next on the agenda? Let's get rid of these nickels. Let's get rid of these dimes. Let's get rid of these quarters. Oh, let's get rid of these singles and fives and tens and 20s. The next thing you know, we will be completely digital currency. You figure this is the first step in truly becoming all digital currency. I really think that that's where we're heading. And this is the very first step in that direction. Sorry, President Lincoln, but at least for now, you still have the $5 bill, right? Let's see. Another very interesting thing. I know it's been a little while now since it's happened. The news is past. Pope Francis has passed away, and there is a new pope who was elected, and it's a very interesting pope, a pope from America, a pope who is from Chicago and then went to Villanova for college. And it's very interesting. I have two things that I'd like to talk about here. I may have mentioned it before, but it was one of my favorite stories to tell, and I'll tell it again, and it seems more relevant now that he has passed. But back in 2015, I was working at Mavis, the auto shop, and Pope Francis came to Philadelphia. That's a really big deal. Now, the powers that be at Mavis knew that Pope Francis was staying in the vicinity of where my shop was, meaning that they were going to close off a considerable amount of road because, let's face it, he's the Pope. The Pope is a king of the Vatican. He is the head of the Catholic Church, meaning that he is an international heavyweight. And that means his security is utmost top priority of everyone who is around him. Of course, he comes with his own personal guard, the Swiss Guard, as his personal protectors. But being here in the United States, he also is protected by everyone that we have in the general area where he's at. Now, my store was in Bala Cynwyd, which means that the Bala Cynwyd police were also there to watch that area, as well as the Philadelphia police who were just across the street. Then, of course, there was the county sheriffs were in the general area as well as the state police, because the trip that he was going to be on, the route that he was going to go on, was going to take him on 95, I believe it was, and the state police was also going to be there. don't worry. That's not all the protection he had. He also had National Guard people up and down City Avenue where he was. And my very favorite, we wouldn't allow the Pope to be in our country without having a Secret Service detail as well. So the man was as protected an individual as anybody could ever get. But of course, that meant that there was literally no cars allowed on that stretch of road by where my shop was. Now, a smart business person would have said, well, apparently, there's not going to be anyone allowed on that road. No one. Because you have to deal with all these things: the Secret Service, the Swiss Guard, the Philadelphia Police, the sheriffs, the state police, the National Guard. It just doesn't make any sense. But, of course, we at Mavis have people who were far more intelligent than us, and they told us to open the store anyway. Okay. Good idea. Open the store anyway. Of course, nobody showed up except for one. I don't even know what to describe this lady as. Just makes literally no sense. She came in to get her oil changed. The stupidest thing I could possibly imagine. Why would you come when you can see literally the Swiss Guard, the State Police, Ballackinwood Police, Philadelphia Police, Secret Service, and the National Guard? And when I say National Guard, I'm not just saying that there was a few people walking up and down the street in fatigues. No, they were in Hummers with 50 caliber machine guns. They meant business. So, all this to say, this lady drove around, she told us, for 3 hours to try to get to the shop in order to get her oil changed. My thought process is, if you didn't get your oil changed the day before, and you noticed that all this military and police presence is around, maybe you could have waited one more day and probably would have worked out better for you. I don't know. I was smart enough to know that if they're going to make me come to work, at the time, I was only a mile and a half away from the job. So, thing number one is I'm going to walk. I'm not going to try to drive. And I'm going to make sure that all those agencies recognize that I was wearing my work uniform and that I am no threat to the Pope. However, this other dude, I don't know what's wrong with people. Drugs are bad. Drugs are bad. I'm just going to put it that way. It's the only thing I can think of. Drugs are bad. I mean, this is, I think it was the beginning of September, end of September maybe. We're still talking 70, 75 degrees. Now, granted, I'm sitting in a hotel room. The air conditioning's on. And my arm is still a little stiff, so I got a sweatshirt on. This guy is in like 80 degrees, walking down the street, wearing a hoodie. But make matters worse, the hoodie was covering his head. Covering his head, I took a picture. He's walking, and it's not just any hoodie, I believe it was a black hoodie. And he's walking down the street, and what you see is the National Guard Hummer with the 50 caliber machine gun and the soldiers standing there. And all I can think to myself is, this guy wants to die. Because he's walking around like, I got a hoodie on, and I'm going to just do whatever I want to do. I don't care about any old Pope. He would have cared if dude opened up that 50 cal on him, but I don't know what he was thinking. He couldn't have been thinking. Again, I say drugs are bad. That's the only explanation I can have for that. the only one that makes any sense. That's it, just drugs, nothing else. But of course, after that, we sat in the store for about half an hour, and then Pope Francis, in his Fiat, drove by. Now, let me tell you how this thing looked. The Ballackinwood police, the Philadelphia police, the state troopers, and the sheriffs drove down the road in this gigantic procession. The National Guard was on both sides of the street to make extra precaution. Of course, there was people lining the streets to see the Pope. And as he drove by, he waved at us, me and my boss. Because we went outside, we looked as well, because nobody else in the shop, didn't matter. And he waved at us. 5 minutes later, our boss calls and says, well, apparently you're not going to get any work done today because nobody's going to be there. You're kidding. And he said, well, you guys can close up the shop and you can go. Thanks. That was just the funniest thing. But now, I just wanted to say this, and I know that Mr. Patrick of Houston's Hustle Hobbies will appreciate this about our new Pope. We now have a new second city saint. He will definitely appreciate that. The man behind Zenith Transportation absolutely will understand that quote. And I also have to say this too, because I've been meaning to say this for a while. I said it to a few people, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. As a Philadelphian, a New Jersey person, the one thing that we know for sure, Villanova is not really in Philadelphia, but it's close enough where people sort of allow it to happen. Plus, hey, they've won a couple national championships, so I think Philadelphia is okay with claiming them, right? And one of the things that you would see on the news when the new Pope was being given his when he was elected, people were talking about what's his Wawa order, because, well, you're not going to live in Villanova or in that area and not know what a Wawa is. It's just what it is. And for sure, I know what the Pope's Wawa order had to be. I know it. There's no doubt I know what it was. And it's so simple, and everybody should have realized this. And that's how you knew that there must have been something special about this man. Instantly. First of all, he didn't care what kind of meat it was. Doesn't matter what he wanted on his hoagie. Doesn't matter. It could be any meat. Does not matter. He had one simple criteria. Just one. I can only imagine. The only thing that he cared about was the cheese. It absolutely had to be Swiss. He could have any kind of meat. Didn't matter. Ham, turkey, roast beef. Didn't matter. But he had to have Swiss cheese. And obviously, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm not going to have any shame. It's because, wait for it. Swiss cheese is holy. I said. And I have no shame about it. I said it. I said it. And I have no shame about it at all. Oh, man. I've been waiting to say that for so long. Okay, I regained my composure somewhat. But it's true. Swiss cheese is holy. Oh, man. Let's see what else we got here. Several little things. I think I'm going to go and double down on the Philadelphia thing for now. Oh, nope, 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 nope. Let's go to the pretty obvious one here that I can't believe I didn't start with. I should have started here. Because back on May 10th, 2025, I did something that I never expected to do. And I'm so glad I did it. That was be part of the Floors Art Show. I actually took advantage of Miss Yolanda, the lady who is the guest that has the most listens on my show ever. And her art show that she held was a magnificent event. And I am extremely proud of being part of it. I gotta admit, I wasn't sure what to expect. But I can promise you this. What I found was so much better than what I could have thought about. It was really cool. A lot of people who were extremely talented, and I'm not going to be too bold as to say that the people who were there were far more talented than I can certainly say that more than confidently. Absolute 100% far more talented than I. They have been working at their craft much longer than I have. And a lot of them have perfected it to a point. Now, admittedly, I probably have only been seriously putting together some paintings for the last 2 years. 2 years. And I'm going to pat myself on the back if I could get my arm to go that far back because it's all stiff still. But I have improved from where I started. And ultimately, that's the goal, to get better. And I think that that's what I've been able to do. Now, admittedly, like I said, the other people who were at this Floors art show were far more defined and refined and skilled than I. And over time, I will eventually get to that point. And that's the goal. Now, of course, Miss Yolanda eventually is going to have to do another one of these shows. And I absolutely am going to do everything I can to be a part of it. Again, there's no question about it. It's just what I'm going to do. No doubt. She has a show. I'm going to do everything I can to be a part of it. Hands down, no question. Absolutely going to have to be. Man, I was right to the point with that because I can't avoid it because it was one of the more fun things that I've done. And I can truthfully say that it was a Star Wars moment. Obi-Wan to Luke Skywalker. I took my first step into a much larger world. Let's see. What do we got here? We'll save that one for a little bit because I got something I absolutely wanted to get into because to me this is something so funny, and I truly believe that I'm very proud of this because I've heard people talk about this particular subject before, and I never see this, but I found one. What did I find? What am I proud about? Well, the answer is I found a mistake in a TV show. I'm super excited about it. Probably more excited about it than I even realized at the time when it happened, because I never noticed this stuff. Now, admittedly, I've been really binge watching a lot of different series, and recently, one of my favorite ones. I mean, when I say a lot, like a lot of series, like I have plenty that I still have on my list, but right now, as of June 12th, 2025, I'm in the middle of binge watching The Blacklist. Chances are, in fact, I'm 100% sure that by the time that this episode is released, I will have finished The Blacklist and I'll have moved on to something else. But The Blacklist absolutely is a show that I wish I had watched before, just like Breaking Bad. Those two, I could do a whole show based on the fact that of shows that I said that I'm going to get to it, and I just never bothered. And I feel so bad with the fact that I didn't bother to watch The Blacklist until now, and Breaking Bad was before that. And I can truly say that I've gone left from where I was going, because the mistake that I found was in another series that I really, really love, which was Suits. But not just any Suits. A new series of Suits. Suits LA. Which is just as good to me as the original, with a little bit of a twist. I really like Suits LA because it combines the two, which is kind of nice, because people who were from the original Suits show have been part of Suits LA to help this first season kick off. And I mean, it's one of those small world scenarios. You gotta love that. But that's not the issue. The issue is in Suits LA, season 1, because there's only one season so far of Suits LA. It's episode 6. Now, there's a scene that starts at 11 minutes and 37 seconds. I went back and did this back and forth about 12 times to make sure that I saw what I saw. But at 11 minutes and 37 seconds, there's a guy who takes a bite out of a donut. And it's a noticeable bite. It's not like a nibble. He took a bite, a man-sized bite out of this donut. Now, at 11 minutes and 45 seconds, you can clearly see the bite mark in the donut, because they show the donut again. He's in the middle of a pretty interesting conversation that requires some dialogue, and you can see the bite mark. Now, at 11 minutes and 57 seconds, he has the donut in his hand, and guess what? There's no bite. The bite is gone. At 11 minutes and 57 seconds, the bite is gone. Now, like I said, I literally rewound and fast forwarded those key points. 11 minutes and 37 seconds, 11 minutes and 45 seconds, and 11 minutes and 57 seconds. That 20-second period between 11:37 and 11:57, and I saw the bite at 11:37, and the bite was gone at 11:57. 20 seconds later, the bite is out of here. Now, this is where it gets really, really cool. 28 seconds later, 12 minutes and 25 seconds, the bite returns. I just saw it come back. I watched the whole thing, like I said, multiple times, at least 11 times for that 20 seconds before I advanced it to 12 minutes and 25 seconds. And that's when my mind really went crazy, because that meant that scene, like I said, it was a very important scene. And apparently the director was so pleased with what he had done, or what they had done, between 11 minutes and 37 seconds and 11 minutes and 45 seconds, that between 11 minutes and 45 seconds and 11 minutes and 57 seconds, there was some sort of error that they had made, or they weren't happy with it. And they redid that part. But they used a fresh donut, not the one that he took the bite out of. Who knows? What do you do? Do you eat the rest of the donut, maybe? Who knows? But for sure, the donut came back with the bite, 12 minutes and 25 seconds. And I pat myself on the back when I realized I caught one. I never see these mistakes. But this time, and it was so subtle. And I guess most of these mistakes that happen in production are so subtle. And you never really look at it until you pay attention to it. But for some reason, it caught my attention immediately. And I was like, yes, I found one. And good grief, I always wanted to find one. And I feel really good that I did. It's like, yes, I did it. I did it. I paid attention. I looked at what was going on. And I found the mistake. I'm proud of myself on that. I found the mistake. Found it. Let's see. All right. I think we'll go here. And then I may save the rest for, there's plenty. There's a lot left. I'll probably save the rest for just talking number 19. But here's one that was, I think it was classic. I don't know what happened or why this is what's happening, but I was getting bombarded with people calling about little things. We want to help you with this problem. Do you have an accident? Lady calls April 23rd, 2025. And she asks me if I was hurt in an accident in the last 2 years. Now, 2025, technically speaking, wasn't a car accident. It's when I fell down the steps in the prison that I worked at. I was hurt, but not in the last 2 years. But she was insisting that it was some sort of car accident or work-related weird incident. And I told her, well, no. And she was like, was there anything that ever happened to you in the last couple of years that we can take a look at and see if we can get you compensation for? Right then, it dawned on me. I've always wanted to take one of those solicitors and give them a story that would make me very, very happy. And so what I did was I told her, well, no, I wasn't in any sort of car accident in the last 2 years. However, last year, I was working for a guy and I was cutting his grass. And the lawnmower got stuck. And I went down to go and unclog the lawnmower. And the guy pulled the cord and it cut off my index finger. She immediately was, and I was like, it was terrible. My finger was hurting, it was bleeding, it was on the ground. I picked it up, tried to get it on ice, and had it gone to the hospital, see what they could do with it. I was very detail oriented and I was descriptive, to say the least, about how horrible my finger was after it got cut off by the lawnmower. Now, this lady then said the worst possible thing she could have said at the time, but it made for a better ending to the call. She said, so, did you get injured? When she said that, I stopped and I told her, lady, did you not hear me just tell you I told you a story about how my finger got cut off with a lawnmower? And you're saying that you can help me get compensation? But you didn't even listen to the story I told you. So how can I believe that your law firm can help me get compensation? And at that point, I angrily said, I can't believe you wasted my time. I thought that you could maybe help me after you. After you promised that you would be able to do something for me, but you can't even listen to me as I'm telling you the story. And then I hung up the phone. And the thing that made that conversation so much funnier is my youngest daughter was right there listening to this story. She's like, I can't believe you did that. But that was just so funny. Like, oh man. I almost could have left that one as a story for a story episode, but it, it was just so sporadic that I had to do it for this. And on that note, I think that I'm going to save a good portion of these because I have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have a good 6 more things that I wanted to just talk about, but they weren't quite as current as the Pope or the other one stood out that needed to be told now as opposed to later, because it's already late. Really, the Pope and the Finger one, that one, those two needed to be told sooner rather than later. But as far as it goes, I believe that I'm going to ring the bell and end the main event. And we're going to move on towards the next phase, which of course is going to be, where are we going to put it at? Well, we'll go with the Spear of the Week, because that one is really kind of interesting. The Spear of the Week happens to be very recently from today, since I had just been driving 5 hours to get to Pittsburgh, and it turns out that, well, apparently it's not just the roads of Philadelphia that have crazy drivers on them. Not at all. I need Roman Reigns, Edge, and Goldberg, Bobby Lashley, Batista, even Charlotte Flair. She can go ahead because she does a pretty good spear too. And Bianca Belair. Let's all just give this one truck driver a spear. I grant it. Granted, you deliver packages, and we're not going to tell you what company you work for, but let's just say you deserve the Spear of the Week. It's one thing to want to move your truck around, but it's also another thing to forget that your truck is 53 feet long from the beginning to the back of your trailer. Probably weighs as much as 10 cars. So, I was a CDL driver. I had my license to drive buses, not the trucks like those. My bus was 40 to 60 feet in length and no trailer. But the one thing that they made abundantly clear to us all is we really need to pay attention to our mirrors. And it's a shame. This truck almost missed me, which fortunately was because I was paying attention. And the driver in the truck, a lane next to them, also had to use his skill in order to avoid that particular trailer that truck was driving. I mean, just sometimes you have to rely on your skill and not the skill of the person who's driving, which in the case of a CDL driver, they should be the best driver on the road. Admittedly, this particular CDL driver was probably the worst driver on the road. And I'll have to say that I literally have driven everything from a smart car to a 60-foot articulated bus. And I don't think I've ever seen somebody quite as bad as that guy. I don't know if maybe he drove without sleep longer than he should have, or he just stinks. I don't know. Either way, he needs to get speared right through his trailer. And he is clearly the Spear of the Week, whoever that driver was. Just a shame. Now, we're not going to bring the magic book onto the camera because we never really want to do that. But the question is, do you prefer living somewhere that has 4 seasons of weather? My answer to that is, for the first time when it comes to these questions, very definitive, very short, and very sweet. The answer is absolutely. I need all 4 seasons because it's bad enough that sometimes it feels like I'm living in one gigantic day. Since retiring, if I didn't notice that it was getting warmer, the light was lasting longer, or the days were getting shorter, and it was going to get colder, I might almost think that it was just one gigantic day. I need all 4 seasons just to remind me that there are somewhere between 365 and 366 days in each calendar year. So yeah, I need the seasons. But now, it's time to shut the door on this episode. And as a result of that, I'm going to remind everybody that you can check me out on Instagram at Philip Henderson 5102. I'm out there on X. My favorite thing to remind everybody of is to join us. Join our Facebook group. There's always room for one more. And, of course, equally as important, subscribe to @PhilTheLip. That's a YouTube channel that this show will be playing on. So, subscribe. Now, it is time for the words of wisdom. Truthfully, the last several weeks has had the same words of wisdom because it was about me telling my story. But now, the words of wisdom are going to be a little different this week than they've been for the last 2 months. Those words would be, it's not the most fun thing in the world, but sometimes it's necessary. And that is understanding that sometimes it's just easier to put your car in cruise control and just head down the road than it is to put your foot all the way through the floor and just weave in and out of traffic. I can certainly say that I was able to listen to a good couple podcasts on this 5-hour trip that I took. And I just sort of sat back and just let it all flow by. Now, to be ultra aggressive and just weave in and out of traffic doing 90 miles an hour, would I have gotten here any faster? The answer is no, because by the time I got into Pittsburgh, it was rush hour, and everything was at an absolute standstill. So all that time would have just been immediately erased once I got into Pittsburgh. As is life. Put your car put it in cruise control and just let it go. Don't bother trying to weave in and out. Not getting anywhere fast. But you'll get there as long as you just ease on down the road. On that note, my name is Phil, and you've just listened to The Lip.